All right, everybody, let's go ahead and sit down, please. All right, everybody, welcome to the November 2024 OREG event. You guys are all so funny. It's like they think I'm gonna bite them or spit on them.
No, I have no friends.
Things like that. Right, Gary? No, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. I'm so thrilled to see all of you, all the new faces, all of the, I'm not going to say old faces, I'm going to say faces that I've known for quite some time, and everywhere in between. Tonight's going to be really special. You've made an excellent choice surrounding yourself with like-minded people, fellow entrepreneurs. We're kind of a weird bunch, so we got to stick together. Before we dive in, I want to share something that's been going on in my world. And over the past 2 months, I've made some pretty drastic changes in my life. So one thing that I've started is getting up early. So I get up between 4:30 and 5:30. Rob and I were texting, and I texted you super early, and he texted me, oh yeah, early bird gets the worm. It was like 5:30 when I texted him in the morning. And it has given me such a very productive start to my day, which I'm really enjoying. So I get up, I read the Bible, I drink coffee, I exercise, and I do all these things. And I've added heavy weights to my routine. And also I've tripled my protein intake, which might sound funny. For a woman my age, and I know you all think I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. I don't know why you're laughing. I just turned 51, and I want to be a strong old lady. I don't want to be a little old lady, frail little old lady. So I've got to do things, to make sure that I'm healthy. And I took something away. I took something out of my life. I took alcohol out of my life. And there was a time back in 2017 where I stopped drinking for 5 years. And I remember it being just a good time, a time of clarity. And went to Mexico in 2022, had a mojito, and just kind of started back up again. I think a lot of you can relate. Anyway, during that time, I kept thinking something's off. Oh, it must be perimenopause. I'll do ayahuasca. I'll go all protein. I'll go vegetarian. I'll fast. And guess what it was? Guess what it was? It's the alcohol. It just doesn't, it doesn't work for some people. It really doesn't work for me. So that's another thing that I stopped a couple months ago, and it's been really life-changing. So these changes reminded me that sometimes to level up, you've got to add things to your life, and then sometimes, of course, you got to take things away, maybe things that are distracting you or preventing you from your greatness. And, maybe somebody needed to hear that tonight. So whether it's somebody in this room or on the recording, if I've helped one person with that message, then I'm up here doing my job. Our first speaker tonight is somebody that I've been friends with him on Facebook for a long time, but I connected with him 6 months ago. And Gary McGowan is a realtor from Ontario with the Keller Williams brand. And just like all of us, he's a fellow entrepreneur. And he reached out to me to get some feedback from me about moving to the Okanagan. And I was so excited for him, so excited for his family. And I was excited to share with him some of my insight, just knowing that he had kids and things like that. And I like to think that I helped him with that transition. It's just such an incredible place to live. Gary recently launched the Quick Wins for Realtors podcast. And I think it's a great little podcast for anybody. It doesn't have to just be for realtors. He's got not cute.
Cute, you can use cute.
They're
I'll
cute.
use cute.
They're cute, and they're informative, and they're something that anybody can use. So it's really something that's adding to the community, and that's really neat. He started that about a month ago. He's had a remarkable career and talent for adapting to life's challenges. So tonight he's going to share some of the changes he's made in order to improve his life overall. He's also helped thousands of others do the same. And so without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mr. Gary McGowan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is the audio that's recorded.
There we go. All right. Julie, thank you. I appreciate it. This is a great honor to be here. And I love that message of stopping so you can start something. We can learn a lot about that tonight. And maybe my story ties into that. I'll tie my story into that. The power of one, and I'm going to share with you my journey through real estate and kind of how I ended up here in the Okanagan and all that kind of stuff, and how I bought a number of properties all without my own money. I think I bought 50 properties and I didn't put a dime in on deposits or down payments or anything. We used joint venture partners for all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that already, and how and why we did that. Out of today's conversation, I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable, and I'll share with you kind of some of the deeper parts of my life and why I do the things I do, and maybe it relates to you. And I truly believe my career trajectory, we can call it, of creating opportunities for others changed when I got real clear on why or what my purpose was. And I'll share with you tonight what that is. And my goal for you is that you can take that and perhaps it ignites your purpose or provides some clarity to what you're doing. And when Julie says, Gare, I've helped thousands of people, I have. And I host a lot of online videos and all that kind of stuff, whether you're an investor or a realtor. There's probably, I've done a video for you. The cool thing is, I didn't know I was going to do that. And that's part of my story. And there's two words that changed my life, which is why I'm here. And I'll share with you what those two words. I'll share with you also a little bit of some practical things that you can do in your real estate investing or any type of investing right now. Does that sound good? Sounds good. Okay, good. And I might ask you questions, so don't be afraid to respond. In fact, I want you to respond. Have you ever said something or acted upon something and you've ever felt like this before? I'm hearing some giggles and yeses. Yeah. It could have been something that somebody's asked you a question you instantly regret. Right? I know I have. It could be something that you've done that you've instantly regret, or perhaps we don't even know what she's feeling, but a lot of you connected with her just in her look, right? Whether it was fear or excitement or what did I just do, or I don't know what it could be. But here's what I know is I can remember distinctly in 2007, Christmas of 2007, my father, and I'm going to share a lot of stories about my mother and father. My father, we were over at Christmas at my parents' house, and my dad says to me, you know, the only time I've ever really made money was in real estate. And my parents were serial entrepreneurs. So if you could do it, they've done it. Anything, multi-level marketing to you name it, they've done it. We'll get into that. And that one sentence led to, Garrett, I'm going to be buying some properties this summer. And I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't even know what I was saying. But all I said was this. Without skipping a beat, I said, my wife and I had been married for maybe 10 years at that time. I said, we're in. Fast forward, that was 2007. I can't do the quick math. 15, 16, 17 years. I can tell you my life has changed over and over again because of those two words. And the opportunity that has been opened up for us is incredible. The cool thing is, what I didn't know then that I know now, because hindsight's pretty clear, right? 2020, right? I've been able to help so many different people, whether, it's been helping them buy a property as a realtor, or partner with a property, or the types of tenants that we're working with, or the story that I get to share. That one thing changed. And I'm sure you've thought people have asked you over and over again, why are you investing in real estate? Or like all those horror stories that we're talking about at the beginning, right? There's so many people that would never do it, but there's also that fine small group that are willing to take chances. And that's what we did. So it was all about taking a chance. The cool thing is those words had a tremendous amount of weight that I didn't know. And I got a picture of a buffalo here. This is a weird little sidetrack, but I think it's a kind of a cool image to put up. A buffalo will stand facing the storm. Do you know that? Do you know why a buffalo? Well, do you know why we think a buffalo does that? We never asked a buffalo. Do you know why do you think a buffalo does that? It faces the storm. Sees what's coming. We believe the buffalo faces the storm because it'll get through the storm faster walking towards the storm. And sometimes our words have that type of power, right? The other cool thing is sometimes we need the courage to say yes as well as no, right? What are you going to stop? What are you going to start? And sometimes I will say you could probably take out that word courage and also be naive to say yes, right? As I think I was when I said to my dad, we're in. And then, we ended up buying 50 some odd properties and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I didn't know what I was doing or what I had signed up for. The other neat thing there is there's a moment of trust where put up your hand if you're buying properties with partners, whether it's joint venture partners or what. Yeah, a lot of us, and I'd say most of us in here, some sort of partnership. And in fact, I think we all are if we kind of take a step back, because who's our biggest partner when we buy a property, Craig?
Your wife, the partner.
Okay, that's probably a perfect answer. Yes, your actual partner, as well as I was going to say to the bank, right? The bank is our biggest partner, right? I like that answer, though. I think I got to run with that. But there's a moment of trust, and it's so much easier to buy properties with someone that's already done it before. So much easier to do something like to jump off a cliff in a sense, right? With someone that's done it before, right? Because they modeled the things that you're supposed to do, and you're going to follow that. Another piece of this too is, we said that there's joint venture partners in here, and you're raising capital and everything like this. And here's what I do know: no one will invest in a property before they invest in you, right? They're not saying yes to this great opportunity you brought them. They're saying yes to you. And where that became so clear to me is, I have friends, I'm from Ontario, and I just moved here 3 months ago. And I gotta tell you, it's like, if you want a person that just moved here, if you want their opinion on what I think Kelowna is, I think, Craig, you just moved here too, we'll call it 3 years ago as well. Right? Like, it's all the nicest, coolest people in Canada decided to come to one city and call it Kelowna. Everyone's got a great opinion on, great opinion on where you should ski, where you should bike, what wineries to visit, and breweries to go to. But I gotta tell you, we are loving it. It is very cool. A moment of trust, though, is simply this. I had friends, Joel and Andrea called me up a number of years ago. They knew that I'd been investing in real estate and had some significant success there. And they said, Garrett, we got an opportunity about rent to own. We don't know a lot about it. On paper, this looks like an amazing deal. Could we take you out for coffee so you can kind of give us the ins and outs of it? Because they know I've done a lot of that. But yeah, no problem. So I go, sit with them, learn about their opportunity, learn about what's important to them, that type of thing. I share the good, the bad, the frustrations with rent to own, the great stuff and everything. And I'm just sharing. I didn't think anything of it. And I get a call about a week later. Joel's on the phone. He goes, Gary, can I put you on speaker? Yeah, no problem. I said, well, Joel says to me, just want you to know, we're not moving ahead with that rent-own opportunity, but we have a question for you. Yeah, shoot, go ahead. We want to know if we're able to invest with you instead of this other opportunity. I had to think back for a moment, and I'm like, well, yeah, of course. The answer was yes, by the way, if you're wondering. Of course you can. The cool thing was, though, I showed up and I wasn't being a salesperson. I wasn't trying to solicit opportunities and that type of thing. I was just being my authentic self. They were investing in me. We ended up buying, I think, 3 properties together, and we're great friends. And like I said, they are investing in me. I think properties had nothing to do with it. The opportunity, the fact that I was able to share with them authentically what was great about the opportunity, what perhaps they should look for in the opportunity. And there is a huge, I wouldn't call it a moment of trust, it's just trust, right? It's just trust. The other neat thing too is, and this perhaps didn't come to my awareness until I was a little bit, I am also 51. So maybe when I turned 50, I started learning or thinking more about my legacy. And I didn't know at the time when I said yes to my parents 17 years ago, we were going to start buying properties, that it would start that legacy dream that I'd always had. Because we had a young family of 2 kids at the time, about to have a third shortly after that. I was in full-on parent mode, right? We could probably all remember some of those days if we've been there. But creating wealth for me is not necessarily always about creating money. Really creating wealth to me is time. Time that I can now work semi-part-time for that brokerage back in Ontario. I manage 10 different offices and that sort of thing, but it's really I created a part-time so I can enjoy life out here. And that is what all of that has been able to do, or what real estate's been able to do for me. Let me tell you my backstory. We all have a backstory. This is a picture of my family. I think I'm 18 here. I have 3 siblings. There's my mom and dad. My parents immigrated to Canada, probably like many other parents did, in the early 70s. And both my mom's dad and my father's dad died at an early age. And my father, like I said, is a serial entrepreneur. So where do you learn that? If no one's modeling that for you, you just go do it. That was my dad. He just does it. My mom's the bookkeeper, the accountant. She's now an accountant, all that type of thing. So you can see how those 2 worlds come together. And I started investing in real estate not 17 years ago. Probably about 40 years ago, without me knowing it. Because my parents, as I said, were buying properties back then. And I would get sent to properties to go cut the grass. I couldn't figure out why I'm cutting some strange lawn, right? And we've probably all been there. If your parents own properties, I'm painting rooms that I would never sleep in or maybe even see again, all that kind of stuff. And in my teenager years, I actually thought it was normal living in Ontario, just outside of Toronto, that every family where I lived had multiple properties. I thought that was normal, or at least normal to me. And it wasn't until I was probably in my mid-20s, maybe into my 30s, I realized that's not normal, especially after you get your first mortgage and you have a couple of kids. You're like, how do we make ends meet? That's definitely not normal. And the cool thing here is I was being modeled how to be an investor at such an early age. I was being modeled do we have realtors in here? Or any sort of sales? Of course, Kelly is. We all do sales. If we're all attracting joint venture partners, right? Or they're like, I was being modeled how to be a salesperson probably at the age of 7 or 8, 9, 10. Okay, for some you won't remember this, but for others you will. Trivial Pursuit, yes? Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it came out around 1982 or 83, we'll call it. And my father looked at this game, it was gangbusters there. Everyone talked about this game, Trivial Pursuit, a trivia game on cards, if you've never seen it before. And my dad looked at it, Julie, you might appreciate this. He said, we need a Bible version of this game. 9 months later, my dad comes from a background of being a printer, like printing presses and that whole thing. And within 9 months, not only he had written, him and my mom and another partner wrote 2,000 questions from like a very beginner age. You could take your 5-year-old and ask questions to like a theologian. You could ask these types of questions. It was kind of cool, actually. And they had developed the game, packaged it, and sold it. Now, in 1983, there's no internet. So how do you sell a cardboard box game? Door to door. He would literally take us on family vacations, packs all these games or boxes in our motorhome that we had, and we would travel around Canada and the United States, going from, at that time, I guess it was quite popular, Christian bookstores. And we'd walk in with, with the 3 kids or whatever, and 4 kids, sometimes 3, because this one, Angela is 12 years younger than me. So in our family, there's a joke, before Ange or after Ange, right? Did we do all these vacations before Ange or after? So I think Ange is born by then. In any case, they speak to store manager, please. The store manager comes out, and I would seriously sit there and watch my dad sell 10, 50, 100 of these games to these store managers. At 10 years old, I couldn't care less. But when I became a realtor, I remember these things, right? And I remember not how to sell. I remember what it took to sell. And that my parents modeled this incredibly, was connecting with people. And it's why, we bought all those properties, and I'd like to say we had 50 different joint venture partners. I think we only had about 4 or 5, because they want to come back and do it more and more with you, right? And it's just able to connect with people. And my parents modeled that incredibly. Fast forward, now we're buying our properties, and let me tell you about how we bought our first 3 properties. This is kind of a neat story. 2008. So there's 2 things that happened in 2008 that I remember. One, we bought our first 4 properties that year, that summer, and then the stock market crash, right? Well, we bought our properties in July, and we had negotiated to buy a 5-plex, a 4-plex, and another 5-plex, all from the same investor. He was retiring in his eyes. And how we negotiated at that time, some of you can appreciate this. He provided us venture take-back mortgages for 15%, which meant they would go in second place of our first mortgage. So we had 75% loan to value on the first mortgage, then his 15, which meant we came up with 10%. Cool. During that same time, that's when we joined another investment club like this, RAIN, and we started to learn about joint ventures. Now, my dad, like I said, had been buying properties for many years with his buddies, and him and his buddy would just sit around the table. Yeah, let's go buy a property. Okay, let's go do it. Well, now we had an actual structure of what a joint venture could look like through contracts and different setups and scenarios, and I ran with it. And then we sat down with my dad's best friend and his son, a really close friend of mine as well. And we explained that we're going to be buying properties with joint venture partners. They loved it. We told them about the 3 properties we were about to close on in about a month. We were obligated is not the right word. We were set and ready to close on those properties ourselves. And at the end of the conversation, Terry, my dad's friend, says, well, why can't we buy those properties with you? And my dad and I looked at each other because we couldn't think of a reason to say no. We said yes. And since that day, we've never bought a property without a partner. The cool thing is, I don't know if this is cool. The neat thing is, later on that year, the stock market crashed. Terry had just sold a large local lumber mill in that area, invested money with us, and invested money in the stock market. Guess where he came back? Because the stock market had a bit of a tumble, and he lost money there, but he didn't lose money in his Ontario real estate holdings, thankfully. And that bloomed into an amazing partnership over the years. We used that to leverage buying more and more properties. I used that experience and that knowledge, and I was very, very thankful. Julie, you might be, I'm not sure if you're part of some of these books as well, but I have different chapters in these 3 books because of my experience that those properties have allowed us to do. If you want to talk about rentals, I've done everything you could possibly renovate, do additions to, knock over, everything like that. We were talking earlier how bad potentially the BC Landlord Tenant Board or the like is here. Trust me, in Ontario, it is just as bad, absolutely just as bad. All those types of things. But I've been very, very fortunate to have different things like that. The neat thing is, as I move forward, this allowed me to become a realtor. Why I tell you this is because I found myself in a job, I was doing telecom for about 15 years. And I liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it. And I found out that when you start at a small telecom company, you end up working for a bigger telecom company because it just keep getting bought and sold and bought and sold and so on and so on. And I ended up at Bell Canada. And I looked around, I was in I think I was 35 or 36. And I'm now in a unionized job, not the plan that I had for myself, at the absolute top pay I could possibly reach. And I was in my mid-30s. Looked around, funny enough, I looked around and the guy beside me, my desk partner, he was 50. Kind of the age I am right now. Like, I don't want to be that guy in 12 or 15 years from now. And a friend of mine said, you should go get your realtor's license, and I did. And the first thing that I learned when I got my license is there are not a lot of realtors, or I should say experienced realtors, that have the experience of owning investment properties. So if you're a realtor in here, this is a great opportunity for you to leverage that. I had a lot of success. I won't get into all that success today because I want to talk about something that is really, really important to me. I said I want to share my purpose. And my purpose, and people will call this their why, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but it definitely, it's definitely my North Star, right? And what I didn't realize up until probably, I'm going to say, 10 years ago, where it came really clear to me, maybe a little bit longer than that, 12 years ago, I was actually living someone else's purpose, but I didn't know it. I felt really good about it. My parents and my sister, during that time we started buying investment properties, they also became the directors of a not-for-profit organization back in Ontario that helps developing countries around the world with clean waters projects, micro businesses, like really cool stuff, and stuff the world needs more of. And I thought the more passive income we can create, it helps them to do more. That's what I kept thinking and kept saying to myself. And I felt really good about it. Until, you start having your own family and your own kids and you create your own life. And I know your why does need to adjust and your purpose needs to adjust as we get older. My wife and I found it very difficult to have children. And we were very, very fortunate. 18 years ago now, I have 3 kids. 18 years ago now, we had our first daughter. And 2 years exactly, I'm not kidding, exactly 2 years later, we had our second daughter. And I don't know about you, but when you have 2 daughters and you're a guy, or maybe you're a mom as well, you kind of want a son. And I don't know, at least I did, that's my personal journey. And sure enough, 18 months later, we had a son. This family is now complete. All we need is a dog, and don't worry, we've got a dog, right? This family's complete. I'm pretty pumped about this. And I remember, you're getting on the phone, telling your family and things like that, that your son's born and they have a new grandson and all that kind of stuff. And 2 hours after my son was born, 2 doctors walk into the room that we were in. And I didn't recognize them. They weren't part of the birth or anything like that. They look at the baby, my son, Tavish, and they're examining him. And it's all kind of a blur to me, but it's also very clear to me. They looked at Tavish, and then they said to Michelle and I, your son has Down syndrome, to our absolute surprise. And I gotta tell you, I didn't know, it rocked my world. We weren't prepared for that. And whether you're prepared for a birth of a child or not, I don't think anybody really is at all. But I gotta tell you, it rocked my world. Now, Michelle and I are the type of people that we do our change management, they call it, very quickly. We get off of that negative piece or that news pretty quickly. And what I thought I wanted is not what I got. But I can tell you, what I needed is what I got. My son Tavish, he's changed my life. He's changed everyone's life. There's my family there. Michelle, my wife, my 18-year-old Karis, Brecken, who's 16, Tavish, who's grade 9, started high school this year, 0 health problems. And I can tell you, obviously, my girls have the opportunity to go create their own wealth and their own journey. Tavish doesn't necessarily get those same opportunities. They, I should say, is the reason why I create wealth, why I create time, why I create an opportunity for our future. And I can tell you that there is never a bad day in Tavish's life. Never a bad day. And I don't know if you've been around anyone with Down syndrome or anything like that. He's pretty much, if it's not this look, it's this look. Oh, I'm scheming something, right? It is, I gotta tell you, it's a blessing. It has opened up so many other doors, introduced us to so many new people that perhaps we didn't have that opportunity for. I get to share with them not only about Tavish's story or my story, the things I get to share with them, things that I'm doing to help others. And I train a lot of realtors, I train a lot of investors, and it has definitely readjusted my purpose. When I started to figure out that my purpose was for my own kids and Tavish's future and Karis's future and Brecken's future, everything shifted. My realtor business trajectory completely changed. 2016, I got my license. I think 2012, 2016, I started a real estate team, took off. I became the manager of, like I said, 10, 12 different offices. Everything changed because I got very clear on what I was doing. Very, very clear. Which has allowed me to kind of think about this, the PPC, not pay-per-click stuff, but proper or purposeful property checklists. So when I go and help people buy properties, or when I buy a property, I like things in threes, as you can tell. 3 kids, 3 questions, 3 things I can remember. I use these 3 things and another 3 I'll share with you in just a moment, and then we'll wrap up. This is the question that I ask myself. Does this investment align with my financial lifestyle goals? What does that mean? It means a number of different things. To me, it means, does this property create cash flow, appreciation, or other things that I need today? Do I need some tax benefits from it? Is it going to create headaches? That type of thing. Does it align with my financial lifestyle goals? The next one here is, how does this investment contribute to my long-term legacy? So is this a short in and out? And when I say in and out, I mean 12 months. I'm not talking about a couple of months. Something like a 12-month investment, or is this much, much longer? Is this going to add value to my wealth at the end of the day? Is it going to add value to my kids? Because I don't think enough investors ask that question. How does this investment affect my little sphere, my little family, my little tribe? The last question, really important, and I think this often gets overlooked. Am I ready to commit to the responsibilities of this investment? And that could be a lot of different things. Like, I gotta tell you, who loves property management? Yeah, there's not an arm up in this room. I absolutely hate it. Even though I can connect with people, I hate it. I hate it. Is this property going to create a property management nightmare? That type of thing. Is this a long-term investment, or do I have to look at this from a 10-year perspective? Can I own this property for 10 years, and can I financially contribute it to the next 10 years? Those are the types of questions. I got 3 bonus, and then that's kind of it. I tell all my realtors, all my investors this. If you want to look incredibly smart in front of anybody, use these 3 questions. These ones are good. I like these because it kind of helps with my bigger vision. These 3 questions are the 3 questions that I use when I buy a property. And I can talk a whole seminar on these 3 questions. One is, how am I going to buy the property? Colin Craggy, do you need lending? What is that? All that kind of stuff, right? Cash, deposits, everything. The next one is, how can I add value to the property? I think we're all doing that in here, right? Buying a property, bringing it up to spec, adding income, adding new income streams to it. The third one, which I've had to learn the hardest way, is how can I exit the property? How can I sell it? Is it in an area where people are looking to purchase? Or am I just in love with the numbers? I don't care about the area. Those are bad things, right? How can I buy it? How can I add value? And how can I exit? Those are the 3 gems. That's it, my friends. My friends, I'm gonna wrap up with that. If you do want, there's the new podcast I just started. I do have another one with my business partner, the Not So Black and White Real Estate Podcast, and I would be forever grateful. Okay, I got two things here. I know Kelly has a YouTube channel. Follow Kelly's, and then if you feel inclined, follow mine. But I do appreciate your time today, and I will hang around here afterwards if you want to chat and connect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
That's fantastic. Right? So good. All right, we're going to break now for 25 minutes. I'll let you know, as I did when we started this, when we're going to resume. I'm going to go over upcoming events, a little bit of details on how you can become a OREG member, and we'll then do open mic. So I'll explain to what open mic is at the time, and then we're going to hear from our final speaker. All right? So make sure you meet somebody new. Enjoy. Okay? Well, that was good. It sounded really productive. Like everybody was getting to know everybody. Fantastic. Who met somebody new? Fantastic. This is good. This is really, really good. Upcoming events. January 12th, we have, December 12th. December 12th, we have a Christmas party.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be super fun. Bring your significant others if you have one. We are going to have goodies, presents, beautiful Christmas decorations. And it's just basically a social, and let's bring in the Christmas season together. So that's December. January, we are having me. I'm going to be speaking about rent to own. It's really funny that you brought that up. I've been doing rent to own since about 2002, 2003. And it has changed the landscaping, and technically it's called lease optioning, okay? The landscape has changed drastically in those 2 decades, and so I like to think that we've really refined it, we've really perfected it. Not everybody knows this, but statistically 6 out of 10 rent-to-owns don't succeed. It's usually because the tenant buyer doesn't end up qualifying for financing, or there's junky paperwork, or all kinds of reasons. And I like to think that we have really fine-tuned a lot of things to make it so that people are set up for success. So I'm going to be sharing some lessons of some rent-own deals that I've worked on with coaching clients in the last little while. February, I have some, I hope they're coming, people, and I have some people in Inc. So we've got in pencil John Glennon from Sandler Sales. Sandler Sales is an excellent sales training, and it's something that changed my life when I took it. I took it twice, in 2003 and 2006, and it just transformed my life. It not only made me a better salesperson, it made me a better business person, a better wife, a better communicator, a better mother. It really has impacted all areas of my life. So that's going to be great. March, also in pencil, is a guy named Matt Brenton with Brentwell Construction up in Vernon. And he's a super successful developer and builder. And he started with one little house, just like most of us. And he's built this massively successful company, and he's got a lot of lessons for people to teach. In Inc. for April, Darren Jacklin, who is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, a real estate investor. He was one of kind of on the foundation of the eXp Realty way back when it started, and there were only like 4 realtors. He's been instrumental in their growth. And he also, one of his charities is called Take a Hike, Build a School. I'm actually doing a virtual event with him next week that I'll let you guys all know about. And he's just doing incredible work to make the world a better place. May, in pencil, we have Melanie Robinson. Yeah, hopefully. She might have to move some things around. She's an NLP master practitioner. NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming, and she is going to help with working on the inner game. She's also a real estate investor, so she can identify with where all of us are at. And sometimes people have a tough time with anything entrepreneurial because they've got this inner junk going on. And so she's going to help give people strategies on how to deal with that. She's a fantastic lady. And then June, we have Mike Wolf in Inc. He is a Canadian who has spent the last 30 years buying real estate in the United States and teaching thousands of other people to do so very successfully. So it's going to be a really awesome spring. We were supposed to have Dave DeBow in January, and that ended up falling through. So, maybe some other time. But, things like this happen. And this schedule might change a bit too, but I'm really hoping that it's the people that I just talked about. And so with regard to membership, there are 3 options. There's $47 a month, and that is for somebody that's only attending, probably less than half the year. There's full-time, so that's $97 a month, and that is for people who are going to attend on a regular basis, and $147 a month if you want to join with a partner or a spouse. Okay, so those are 3 options. There's a massive and growing online community that you'll have tons of online access to many of the real estate investment courses that I've created, including rent to own, raising money, finding deals, and all of the recordings from all of the events that we've done since we started in 2016. And so if you want to if you want to know more about membership, of course you can talk to me, and the best people to talk to are people that have lanyards, because everybody joins for different reasons. Chances are your reasons will line up with one of theirs, but again, I'm happy to talk to any of you about that as well. Now we have open mic. This is for OREG monthly members. And what it is 90 seconds to talk about your deal, your opportunity, maybe a service that you offer, or even to share a success story. So 90 seconds, yes, I watch the time pretty strictly because I know all of you can keep it under 90 seconds. And I'm going to start. I'm just going to give you an idea of what this sounds like, and hopefully it'll help you if you want to come up and do your own open mic. So my name's Julie Hoffman. I am a real estate investment coach, and I have a wholesaling program. And every one of our students that have taken action on the wholesaling program have made their investment back for the training in their first deal. Most of them have created really strong income streams, some of them part-time, and some of them have been able to quit their full-time jobs just through wholesaling. And it is one of the best ways, again, to create another income stream in real estate without having to qualify for financing or put a lot of money down or any money down. And so it's a very, very low risk. It's, for me, and I've been doing this for over two decades, it is the lowest risk way to get started or to grow in real estate investing. So if you're interested in that, come talk to me. And if you're listening to this, there's a link around here for you to schedule time with me. Okay? That was under 60 seconds. Okay? Who wants to do an open mic? You don't have to, but you can. It's easier to talk to, 1,000 people could listen to this, or 1,000 people could listen to this. And it's a lot easier to talk to 1,000 people than it is to talk to 1,000 one-on-one. Christine.
Okay. Hi, my name's Christine. I'm a real estate investor. I've been investing for probably about, I can't do the math. It's about 2017. How many years is that? And I am actually working with Julie, and I am doing the rent-to-own strategy as well with the tenant-first approach. I am putting my team together. I'm working pretty closely with Craig. He's helping me out. And we're currently working with rent-to-own tenant buyer, and so far so good. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's kind of it.
How do they get in touch with you?
Oh boy, I'm on Facebook through the group. I'm in the group. Christine DeVoe is my name. So I have business cards if you want a business card.
That's great. You want to talk about your other company? You got time.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
I also have a new residential cleaning company, Kelowna Luxury Home Cleaning. We are brand new, so we're out there looking for clients, looking for cleaners. If you know of anybody that is looking for a cleaning job, there's a whole new structure that we're working on. We're not paying by the hour. And if you know of anybody that's looking for good cleaners, let me know. Kelowna Luxury Home Cleaning. We have a Facebook page as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll do one quick.
Great.
All right, I'm Craig. I'm a mortgage broker and a real estate investor. Just wanted to kind of bring everyone's attention to a big opportunity out there right now. If you or anyone you know has a TD mortgage and have fixed rate regret. There's a lot of people out there that took really high rates in the last 12 to 18 months, and now they're a lot lower. So normally in that situation, you see a gigantic interest rate differential penalty, and if they want to break the mortgage, it's like 30 grand, which is a real kick in the teeth. But right now with TD, every single mortgage can be broken with a 3 months interest penalty, and they can exit and get a much lower rate at today's market rates. So I did one today. It was an $8,500 penalty. There's 3 years left on that term. They were going to save $9,000 per year for the next 3 years, and their payment dropped by $500 a month. So the net savings was like $17,000. So
You have to go back with TD though?
that's, nope, go to another lender. Generally, TD is never going to call you up and be like, hey, guess what we can do for you? That doesn't happen, right? We would move that sub to another lender. All your legal fees are covered when you do a switch with a mortgage. So yeah, save $500 a month in your payment, $17,000 in interest. And now they went from like, that one was a 624 down to like 424. So huge spreads. So that's only, it's a time sensitive thing because as the bank lowers their posted interest rates, that's what they calculate their reinvestment rate and their penalties off of. So right now, there's not a single IRD penalty with TD mortgages, but that will change over the coming months. So time sensitive, but if you know anyone with a TD mortgage that says, shit, I shouldn't have taken that 6% interest rate, they can pull the chute for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Oh, good. All right, no problem. Our next speaker is the embodiment of action and determination. Kelly Scarr hails from Calgary. He's been a proud Okanagan resident for the past several years, and he has a passion for helping people to relocate to this region. He's a straight shooter. He'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Of course, there is all three. It's not just a beautiful place. It's got some other, things going on with it, just like anything. He runs a very successful YouTube channel called I Love Kelowna that also speaks about, his insight from a realtor and also somebody moving from Alberta over to Kelowna. He's an entrepreneur, a strategist, a hustler, and he knows how to leverage opportunities into success. And on a personal note, Dr. Jordan Peterson came to Kelowna in the summer of 2023. And it was a really special event. And one of the questions that was asked was, if I don't like how things are going on, how do I influence change? And a couple of the things he mentioned were you can volunteer, you can run for office, you can volunteer on the school board or on Chamber of Commerce, something like that. And when I reached out to Kelly to come speak, he was full throttle, 100% focused on making sure that the conservative leadership was secured in the region. And he, along with an army of other volunteers, were out there hitting the pavement, knocking on doors, canvassing, and it worked. And I'm grateful for it because I believe that the Conservative Party is more entrepreneur, and strong entrepreneurs make strong economies. So, this guy talks with his feet, and I really appreciate it. So I know that you will too, and I know you'll love what he has to say. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Kelly Scarr.
Thank you. Embodiment. I don't know that I've heard myself described like that before, but I don't have a slide deck. I didn't bring my laptop or anything like that. I want to just talk to you guys, give you a little bit of my backstory. talk about some things that I'm really doing, what I've done in my life here the last little while, past 60 days or so. I was having a chat with Chad at the back there, and I just came to this realization actually tonight that the coaching company the coaching that I had invested in 60 days ago literally just paid for itself like 2 days ago. So I told my wife that this thing was going to pay off in 3 months. It was a fairly hefty investment. It was $10,000 for 6 months. So she took a leap of faith. You know, Gary was talking about trust, and she obviously has my back, I have hers, and she put her trust in me. We've been together for over 20 years now. I've always had these pipe dreams, these ideas, these things that I wanted to do, and she's always been 100% behind me, and this was no different. So happy to say that this thing has actually started to pay off, and I'm really happy to share some of the things that I've learned with you guys. But first, I'll give you a little bit of my backstory. So I grew up in Prince George. I spent the first 23 years of my life there. I wound up leaving PG in 1998, and I left for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the NDP at the time, they were in power, and they were absolutely decimating this province. The unemployment rate in Prince George at the time was around 15 or 16%. There were no jobs to be had anywhere, okay? So I needed to get out, I needed to leave the province, and the only place that I knew to go, I didn't want to go to Ontario, it was too far away from my family. The only place that I knew to go was Alberta. I'd spent a lot of time in Alberta when I was younger. You know, my grandparents were in Alberta. I had lots of cousins that were in Alberta, so it was kind of a natural thing, a natural progression for me. So I left Prince George, 23, packed my car full of my stuff, had my last $700 in my bank account, and made my way to Edmonton. Stayed on a buddy's couch there for a few months until I was able to get a job, which I had within a couple of days of being in Edmonton, and wound up getting my own place and then on my feet. I wound up getting a trade. I'm actually a Red Seal ticketed B-pressure welder. I did that for 10 years. I needed to get out of that industry, like I was talking to some guys here earlier. The people that were in that trade were very angry with life. They were angry at their wives, they hated their jobs, they hated their lives. It was a very negative environment, and I needed to get out. And so I wound up, well, let's back up a little bit. So I did 5 years in Edmonton, and I say that with kind of a smile on my face. When I say I did 5 years, people are like, were you in jail? Like, no. I wasn't in jail, but living in Edmonton is kind of like being in jail, right? So I did 5 years there. I wound up leaving Edmonton. I had a girlfriend. She broke up with me. My brother called me up. He's like, hey, what are you still doing in Edmonton? Like, move to Calgary. You can stay with me. Get on your feet. Let's go. So he came up the following weekend. We packed his trailer full of my stuff. I left, never looked back, moved to Calgary, October of 2003. Met my wife in May of 2004. That's a whole different story. I won't get into it. Married by 2006, twins by 2008, and moved to the Okanagan in 2021. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind. It's been a fun ride so far. In the trades for 10 years, wound up getting to this point in my life where I was like, no, I can't continue to do this. It's just too negative. What am I going to do? I had a couple of different options. This was 07, so we'd only been married for a year. The plan was to eventually have kids. I could either go back to university or I could go do something else. And that something else was real estate. My dad was a realtor for 25 years. I've got a sister-in-law who lives in Edmonton. So if any of you are interested in investing in the Alberta market, specifically in Edmonton, let me know. I will connect you with my sister-in-law there. She's been practicing now for 25 or 26 years. So at that time, she was in the business for, I think, 10 or 11 years, and I felt like I had this natural affinity towards sales. I remember I had a science teacher in grade 9. Her name was Miss Allen, and I remember her for a number of different reasons, but this is one of the reasons why I remember her. She said to me, you've got this natural affinity towards sales. I can see you doing something in marketing at some point in your future. And I had no idea how right she was. It was just incredible. So I wound up getting my real estate license, got licensed in 07, was part-time through the rest of 07 and into April of 2008. Of course, Gary talked about the financial collapse in the United States that happened in 2007. It had a trickle-down effect here in Canada in 2008. I was in the trades, heavily dependent on the oil field. Things weren't moving. There was no iron moving in the field, as we used to say. And so I knew that my job was on the line. The only thing that was protecting me was that I was really good at my job. Like, I was really good. I had the lowest repair rate on the shop floor, which meant I was head down doing my welding thing. I still got the motion. See that? I was head down doing my welding thing. Guys they'll leave slag inside of the weld. They don't do it on purpose, but sometimes it happens. And if that happens, it's a defect in the weld, and it could really affect the pressurized pipe. And so they have to repair it. My repair rate was less than 1%. That was the only thing that was protecting me from getting fired. The lead hand liked me. The supervisor hated my guts. Because when I actually got my real estate license, I had my old trusty Worldview BlackBerry 8860 or whatever it was. I'd be in my booth on my phone trying to close a client into a transaction or close a deal, working with a realtor on the other end, and my boss would come into my booth and he'd be like, "What are you doing?" He was Eastern European. That's my best Eastern European accent, right? He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Get the hell out of my booth. I'll get my work done. Just don't worry about it." And so he hated my guts. The lead hand comes around. He's like, "Listen, you've got like maybe 3 or 4 weeks." I go, "For what?" He goes, "You're getting laid off. Like you've survived four rounds of layoffs here. The only reason you've survived is because I've been protecting your ass this long." He's like, "I can't do it anymore. Like it isn't that I don't want to. It's because this guy has it out for you. So I'm just giving you a heads up. You've got 3 weeks." So I go home. I talk to my wife about it, and I say, "Listen, like either I'm going to go full on in this and I'm going to be successful with it, or I'm going to go find another job somewhere and I'm going to continue to do this part-time." We had a very long and in-depth discussion, and she said finally, "Well, do you think that you can make it work?" And I said, 100%, I think I can make it work. I've got enough clients right now, I think I can make the jump. She says, "Okay, well, go do it then." So I went in the next day, I gave them my 2 weeks notice. I was going out on my terms, not theirs. The goal for the rest of 2008 was to do a deal a month. I hit that goal by the end of the year. So it was just, my wife and I remember having this conversation, just a deal a month and you'll be fine. We'll be good, just a deal a month, right? So I did that through the rest of 2008. 2009, the goal was to double. I tripled. I went from 8 to 24 transactions in 2009. 2010, I shifted my business model. I went all in online. So video blogging, websites, regular blogging. I was seen as kind of this influencer before there was influencers in the Calgary market because I was an early adopter of some of these technologies. My business blew up in 2012. I went up to 42 transactions. I built a team. That team in 2013, we did 70 transactions. By 2014, we were over 100. By 2015, again, over 100. At the end of 2015, I merged my team with a small boutique brokerage in Calgary. And we operated as a team-based brokerage through 2016. Keep in mind, Alberta, the market had tanked in 2008, started to come back in 2012, was back in 2014. Oil dropped out of the market at the end of 2014 and was back in the shitter by 2015. So during this time, my growth was like this. So I was continually going up because, as our illustrious host referred to me earlier, I'm a bit of a hustler, right? So and all that means to me is that I work my ass off, right? Just as you guys do here. So at the end of the day, wound up becoming a partner in this brokerage. We grew the brokerage from 9 to 115 agents. We did that in about 18 months. We did that by utilizing certain social medias, certain strategies, email marketing, that sort of thing. We got really good at recruitment. Eventually, I realized that my business partners were idiots. Let's not post that part anywhere, so I'll make sure to clip that part out because I don't want to get sued. But they weren't very good business people, and I wound up exiting out of that company in 2019, went solo, and eventually I'm basically going full bore now into the coaching side of things. So that's a little bit about my story. I'll make a quick correction on the YouTube channel. I've got two. There's one that's called Live Love Kelowna. That is the one that I started when I moved here. And I started posting content to that channel consistently. I grew the channel to about 740 subscribers. I've largely ignored the channel since May because I'm taking my business in a completely different direction, which is focusing on coaching entrepreneurs, business people, real estate agents, brokers, owners, managers, recruiters. So I've kind of left that in the dust. I'm more focused now on Instagram and on my other YouTube channel, which is just @KellyScar. So anywhere that you want to find me online, it's @KellyScar. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's @KELLEYSKAR. So that's my handle. How many on Instagram here? Few of you? Okay. Instagram is a fabulous source for finding investors for your property purchases. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. I was either going to go that direction based on how many of you were actually on Instagram, or I was going to talk about something called the accountability ladder. But I think you guys might get something a little bit more out of the Instagram side of things. So what I want to start with, though, is one of the things that transformed my thought process. And this only happened within the last 65 days or so. And it's something that my coach taught me. And it's called the 5 daily non-negotiables. Has anybody ever heard of that? Yeah, a few of you? Okay. So the 5 DNNs, this is what they are. This is how you come up with them. First of all, you need to look out 5, 10, 15, 25 years from now and identify where you want to be in that time frame. Once you have an idea of what those goals are, you can then start to work that backwards and figure out what it is that you can do on a daily basis that's going to continually move the needle towards accomplishing that goal. Essentially what you're doing is you're committing to creating habits. If you can create a habit, you will accomplish the goal that you set out to achieve. So the 5 daily non-negotiables for me go like this. In the morning, like Julie, she says that she gets up between 4:30 and 5:30. I've been doing that for a lot of years. Okay, my wife and I get up consistently. I got out of bed today at 5:05 this morning. The first thing that I do is I get out of bed, I put my watch on. That's trigger number 1, and I'll get into that in a second. So I put my watch on, put my gym clothes on. That's trigger number 2. I'll get into that in a second. And then I go out into the kitchen and I hit the on button on the coffee pot. Okay, so the triggers for me trigger the response where I'm going to go do the thing. So for me, I put my watch on because my watch tracks everything that I do. It tracks my steps, it tracks my activity, it tracks everything. It keeps track of me going and hiking, me going for a walk, me getting in the gym. It's tracking the fact that I've been doing that now successfully, getting 45 minutes of exercise every single day over the last 65 days. This is habit creation and life changing. So the first thing that I do is I read a book. I read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. That's it. I've now read 3 books in the last 35, 40 days. Sorry, 60 days, I guess. I've read 3 books in the last 60 days. I've never done that in my life, ever. Now, I will preface, I will say, one of the books was 96 pages, right? But I'm telling you, it's a great book. In fact, I'll tell you what it is. It's called AI Everyday Guide. If there is one book that you pick up about artificial intelligence, it should be that one. It's $16, it's 96 pages. It will transform the way that you look at artificial intelligence and how to input it into your life and how to make things easier. So that's number 1, I read 10 pages. Number 2, you probably already guessed it, I work out every single day. I'm in the gym and I'm lifting heavy shit, or I'm on the treadmill, or I'm on the bike, or I'm hiking a mountain, or I'm going for a walk. Every day I'm doing 45 minutes worth of exercise, sweat inducing, okay? That's number 2. Number 3, I review my goals on a daily basis. So remember how I talked about 5, 10, 15, 25 years, right? What I did is I identified 25 years from now where I want to be. And within the next 25 years, there were 9 things that I could be doing consistently that are going to take me to achieving those goals. So what I did is I have an iPhone, I went into my Notes app. You guys probably can't see that. I went into my Notes app and I typed out all of my goals. I screenshot it and now it's a wallpaper on my phone. How many times a day do you look at your phone? I'm at least, 200? At least. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, okay, build this, money mindset, improving a relationship, being best dad, give back to young entrepreneur, improve mental health, active life. Yeah. Every single time I open my phone, what this is doing is it's depositing into my subconscious. And now I'm just subconsciously working towards accomplishing these goals. Right, so that's number 3 on the list. Review your goals on a daily basis. Number 4. Now this is where this could actually impact you guys even more than these 3 things. If you're looking for investors, if you're leveraging a platform like Instagram, you should be posting there a minimum 3 times a day. Now, people look at me when I say that, they're like, well, how am I going to do that? I don't have time to do that. I'm like, really? You don't have time to do that? Like, how long does it take to make a post on a platform like that? I'm not talking about grabbing this thing and shooting video What I'm talking about is making a post that's going to be relevant to your audience. Relevant to your audience who may or may not be looking at investing in real estate. Like Gary was talking about, 50 properties, never put a dime of his own money into it. Look for joint venture partners on this platform. It's a gold mine. So if you're posting there 3 times a day, guess what happens? You start to build your audience. You start to build your followers. You start to build up view counts on your stories. And this leads into number 5, which is the 5 opens. The 5 opens are you're starting 5 conversations. You're opening 5 conversations every single day. I'm not talking 5 days a week. This whole program is 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I posted up a video on this very topic on my TikTok, and somebody made a comment. He's like, it's totally unrealistic to think that you could do this 365 days a year. I'm like, really? I'm doing it. I'm living it. This is all about time management. If you can't read 10 pages of a book, dude, you're not getting up early enough. Like, what's the matter with that? Like, you can't read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. I'll tell you, when I finish my 10 pages, I close the friggin' book. It's done. So what I used to do, which is something that I didn't talk about, what I used to do is I would get up in the morning and I would death scroll. You ever hear that? Death scrolling, right? I'd open up Twitter. My wife and I would be on Twitter or X. I call it Twitter. I'm going to continue to call it Twitter because I got on there in like 2007, 17 years I've been on that platform. I will forever call it Twitter. I won't call it X, Elon, whatever, doesn't matter. So we would death scroll on Twitter. She'd be like, oh my God, did you see this? I'd be like, yeah, I saw that. Oh God, I'd get so mad. We'd see all this political stuff that on the platform. Oh man, can you believe he said that? Oh, I know, I can't believe he said that. Ridiculous. So I'd be doing that, and then I'd flip over to Instagram, and I'd scroll through Instagram. I'd ghost and I'd post, ghost and I'd post, ghost and I'd post. I'd post something, but then people would respond, and I'd just completely ghost them. And then I'd move over to Facebook. And then eventually I get into Flipboard, which is like it's a news aggregation app that I would go through. And then I would consume my news. And all the time I'd be drinking my coffee. And then maybe I'd get up and go to the gym if I felt like it. This was a complete reframe, a complete restructuring of my entire day, my entire life. And it isn't something that I'm going to stop. It will continue. Even after I'm done with the coaching program, it will continue. Because I'll tell you, I feel better. There's more clarity. I feel more dialed in. I have a much better relationship. Not that it was bad, but with my wife. We're not talking about political shit anymore. We're having like deeper, more meaningful conversation because we're not death scrolling on our phones anymore. So how do the 5 opens help you? When you post up on Instagram, there's 3 ways that you can do it. The number 1 way to build your audience is through Reels. So that is posting video. So posting up a reel talking about your burr, right? Talking about your joint ventures, talking about the type of content that you feel could draw investors in. So you're posting up a reel per day. Maybe, probably don't want to start with that, just ease into it. So Reels is number 1 way to post to actually gain new followers on the platform. Number 2, stories. Okay, so you're going to post up a story. Story lives on your platform for 24 hours. That's it. Okay, and the 3rd way is by actually posting something on the page. So there's posts, there's stories, there's Reels. The Reels build your audience. The posts and the stories engage with your audience. Here's what happens. Okay, when I open up my phone, again, you probably won't be able to see this, but when I open up my Instagram and I go to my stories, there's this little thing down here on the bottom left-hand corner. This is everybody that's looked at the story. Okay? On the right-hand side, there's a little circle with a squiggly line through it. When I click on that, I can send that person a message. Ghosting and posting, no good. We don't want to ghost and post. Post and ghost. Post and ghost? Ghost and post? Whatever. You mean what I know, right? We don't want to post something up there, have a bunch of people follow us, and then not respond to them. Pedro followed me just the other day. Right? Now, he's got a private account, so I had to follow him back before I could actually say anything, but he engaged with me on my story and said something to the effect of, looking forward to meeting you tonight, or he said something about the book or whatever it was. And what did I do? I responded back, right? What we're trying to do is build relationships here. You're not going to be able to sell something to somebody unless you are able to build that relationship first. Remember, people will buy from other people. They won't buy from a business or a brand. When they walk into a store, that salesperson that's there, they're going to buy that thing that they're looking to purchase from that person. And if that person can build that relationship, build that rapport really quickly, there's going to be great success there. If they can't, they're probably going to go somewhere else. Now, we're here in Kelowna, so you're probably not going to have a chance to go somewhere else unless you go down to Vancouver or you fly out to Calgary or whatever, right? You're kind of stuck here. So we want to try to build the relationship. So how do we do that? We just engage with the people that follow us. So you post up a piece of content, somebody follows you. What I do is I always click through to their account and I have a look to see who they are because I know who my target audience is. My target audience is real estate agents, it's managers, it's brokers, it's entrepreneurs, it's recruiters. Those are the 5 people that I want to target consistently with my content. So if I push through to their profile and they don't fit one of those 5, I'll still engage with them, but I'm not going to sell them by chat. I'm not going to try to build a deep connection or relationship with them before I can actually sell them on something. Why? Because they're not my audience. They're not part of the tribe that I'm trying to build. Okay, so that's the first way. Go into stories, bottom left-hand corner, send a message to somebody, build that relationship. Hey, Gary said it earlier. He's like, the best way to engage someone or the best way to get the most out of a relationship is to see how you can help someone. Be helpful. Get on the platform and be helpful. Somebody follows you, you click through, they match the criteria or the ICP of the person that you're trying to engage, that audience that you're trying to build. Be helpful. Hey, how can I help you today? Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate you. How can I help you? What is something that I can help you with? Is there something that I can help you understand? Right? So we do that when somebody follows us. We can do that when they're viewing our stories. Okay? And we're doing that consistently. If you do that 5 times a day, just wait to see what happens. When I talked about how I paid for, or the coaching program that I'm in, paid for itself within the first 2 months instead of the first 3 months, what I didn't mention was that speaking engagement that I booked for myself for February came directly from one of the 5 opens that I had done in the last 60 days. She was one of the first opens that I had done. I reached out to her. I know her. She's VP of growth for the largest RE/MAX brokerage in Ontario. They have 25 offices, over 2,500 agents. And I just reached out to her. I was like, hey, Barbara, I'm curious. I know you guys got RE/MAX Connect or Hallmark Connect coming up in February. Curious, are you guys looking for speakers right now? It took her a couple of days. She got back to me. She's like, in fact, we are. I'm like, fantastic. Where can I send my rate sheet and what I can speak about? Where can I send that? She gave me her email address. That was 2 months ago. We spoke 2 days ago, and she's like, send me the contract, I'll sign it. 5 opens, $3,500 speaking engagement, doesn't sound like a lot of money, puts me in front of 1,000 realtors over the course of 2 days. When I've got stuff like this going on, this is also going to be happening in Ontario. What I'm doing is I'm taking this and I'm using it to get me on more stages. And then I'm using those stages to increase my social profile, which then gets me on more stages, which then allows me to increase my social profile. Now, stages don't necessarily have to be on a physical stage. A stage could be a podcast. We saw what podcasting did for the US election. We are likely going to see that happen in the Canadian election next year, in the federal election. Podcasting was massive. I spoke to a couple of Americans on Monday that came up for this seminar that I went to, and they were absolutely blown away by how the media in the United States has not been able to get their minds wrapped around this idea that people really appreciate the long-form content instead of the 5-minute sound bites. Right, so I'm going on one of the largest real estate podcasts tomorrow as a result of one of my 5 daily opens. I reached out to the guy that owns the Facebook group, which also owns the podcast, because I had him on a podcast of mine a couple of years ago and said, hey, Tristan, I'm curious. I know you guys have the podcast. By the way, I hope the family's great. We haven't talked in about a couple of years. Are you guys looking for guests right now for the Lab Coat Agents podcast? He responded back to me right away. Absolutely. I've just CC'd my guy in here. Connect with him. Good luck to you. And boom, tomorrow I'm now going to be on that podcast. So stages don't necessarily need to be physical stages. They can be podcasts. So how do you leverage a podcast then? I take my phone and I set it up in my office and I film myself while I'm on that podcast. I take that footage and I get it clipped up and I use that for footage on my Instagram channel. I push those reels out. Now, during that podcast, and something that I'm going to do for you guys here right away, during that podcast, now you know all of my secrets, during that podcast, I'm going to talk to when I'm talking to the interviewer, I'm going to let him know, hey, listen, I've got this thing that I think might be valuable for your audience. What do you think? Do you think it'd be valuable to your audience? And he's going to naturally say yes. And I'll say, okay, well, I'll tell you what. Here's what your audience can do. In order to get the thing that's of value to them, they first need to, number one, follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is this. Number two, they need to DM me certain keyword so that I know where they came from. Then I'm going to DM them, or I'm going to send them a link to the thing that I promised to give away. Right? So for you guys, I was actually going to talk about the accountability ladder. Have you guys ever heard of the accountability ladder? No? Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. It's a fabulous way for you guys to look at victim style behavior, which is something that we all go through as entrepreneurs, right? So victim style behavior and accountable style behaviors. Okay, there's a bottom rung and there's a top rung. The bottom rung below this certain line is the victim style behavior. The rung above that certain line is going to be the accountable style behavior. I've got an entire document on what that accountability ladder looks like. I've also got a way to coach yourself through that accountability ladder or people within your organization. So if you're interested in that PDF document, number one, you've got to follow me on Instagram at Kelly Scar. Number two, you need to DM me ladder. See how I did that? You DM me ladder, now I know exactly what it is that I'm sending. Okay? So that's the 5 DNNs, a little bit about Instagram, social media, how to utilize a sell by chat. That's the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with. The sell by chat, this is how it works. Somebody engages you on your platform. This is great for mortgage brokers, it's great for realtors, it's great for entrepreneurs, anybody that's got their own business. Okay, they follow you on your platform, they follow you on your Instagram page. And you can either try to build a relationship first and say, hey, Gary, thanks so much for connecting with me here on Instagram. I really appreciate you. Hey, I'm curious. This is a 2-step question that you can ask if you want to go straight for the kill. Hey, I'm curious. Are you just here for the content and the videos, or are you looking to grow your real estate business? For you guys, it would be, hey, are you just here for the content and the videos, or are you looking to grow your real estate portfolio? Right? So you can ask those 2 questions. If they say, I'm here for both, fantastic. That's the answer that you want. You want engaged potential partners, right? If they say, well, I'm just here for the content, hey, Gary, that's no problem, man. I'm curious, what piece of content drew you into my channel? What piece of content drew you to my page? What piece of content drew you into my account? So then they'll tell you about the piece of content that they saw, and then you can have a conversation around that and see if there may be a good fit for your platform or your program. Now, if they go in the other direction and say, well, I'm here to actually grow my real estate portfolio, fantastic. That is when you go for the close. Hey, that's awesome. I'm curious. Tell me more about your portfolio right now. Well, I'm just getting started. Well, I've only got a couple of houses. Well, I've got 3 or 4. I've got an apartment built. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. They're either going to there's one of 2 ways. They're either just getting started or they've got something already. Tell me more about your business. So they tell you a little bit more. Fantastic. I'm curious. Where are you located? Tell me about your team. Dig. Get information. Once you get that information, then it's up to you to ask for the appointment. When can we get on a call? Where are you located? Oh, you're in Kelowna? Fantastic. When can we meet? Oh, you're in Prince George? Oh, you're down on the island? Great. If I send you a Calendly link, would you be able to book in with me over Zoom? Yes? Fantastic. What's the best email to reach you at? There's a whole process that you need to follow. Essentially, if they say, no, I'm just here for the content and the videos, your job is to move them to the same point, that conversation that you're going to have with them eventually about becoming an investor in your business. One is a straight shot because they've said, I'm interested in growing my portfolio. The other one is a little bit more roundabout, so we've got to figure out a way to get them down to that same point and move them through the conversation. You want to get them down, I saw this today actually. How many of you guys have heard of Andy Elliott? You heard of Andy Elliott? No. So he started in the car business. He was a car salesman. He's now he's actually supplanted Grant Cardone in the car salesman training space. Like Grant Cardone is hardly in that space anymore. Andy Elliott has pretty much wiped him out. And he had this video today that he was doing. It was a training. He's like, your job is to get these people down into a rabbit hole. Right? The rabbit hole is all of the value that you're going to provide, and it's going to be so valuable that they're going to have a hard time digging themselves out to offer an objection. Remember, an objection is somebody's using an objection. It's not really an objection. They don't have enough information yet to be able to make a decision. That's why they're telling you that one of those three objections. Well, I got to talk to my spouse. Well, I don't have time right now. Right? Well, let me talk to my accountant. Those are one of the three objections they're going to wind up getting, especially in this space. Move them down the rabbit hole, give them as much value as you possibly can, so they have a hard time digging themselves out to give you that objection. And then you're just moving them down that sales track. Make sense? Cool. You guys get anything out of that? We good? Okay. I think that's my 30, so might even be longer than that. Thanks, guys.
Good job. All right. What an incredible evening. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Kelly, for sharing your stories, your strategies. So valuable. We're all going to leave here inspired to act with more purpose and with more, and to think bigger. As we wrap up, I want to end with this. Every entrepreneur and investor or dreamer is going to face obstacles. And both of these speakers have talked about that. And sometimes these obstacles you're going to feel like it's just easier to give up rather than keep pushing forward. The path to success is all about resilience. Yes, I had to look at my notes. Did anybody else notice that? Okay. Resilience, the indomitable spirit to rise above challenges no matter how formidable they may seem. And a striking example of perseverance and overcoming insurmountable odds is the recent United States election. So, love him or dislike him, Donald Trump and his team, they made quite the astounding comeback against really staggering odds. Media that was very much against him, constant barrage from opponents trying to, undermine his efforts, threats, like literal threats on his life. So, in addition to all of that going on, the election, they put together a task force, actually, to ensure that the election was done fairly. They called for 100,000 volunteers. They got $200,000 volunteers throughout the United States to make sure that the process was done correctly, to basically be watchdogs. And whenever somebody strayed outside the lines, like subpoenas were issued, lawsuits were started, this whole thing was all about accountability and holding people's feet to the fire. This was to safeguard the integrity of the democratic process. I felt the same way about when I went to vote in BC. there were all kinds of people all around the facility watching and being vigilant. And we're so lucky to be in a country with a true democracy. And, America, of course, is the same. I found it really remarkable. But here's my point. This is not about policies, believe it or not, or politics. It's about perseverance and persistence, because despite immense opposition, they kept pushing forward and forward, refusing to be silenced, refusing to surrender. And, that's the definition of standing firm under pressure. And if any of us have done real estate for a long time, you're gonna encounter some definite pressure. And here's the truth that you need to hear: that each one of you is capable of this resilience. And you might not feel like it sometimes, but within each and every one of you is the power to overcome whatever obstacle you face. No matter how daunting it is, you have the ability to rise, to persevere, to persist. Because resilience is not reserved for the few. It is a birthright for those who believe in themselves. And I hope you all believe in yourselves, because you deserve to. So let's carry that spirit forward, and let's embrace the challenges. Let's stay the course and never give up. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next month.